Greetings, traveler. In the games industry, I have very often seen the case where a company thinks that they will make a game, release it, it's gonna get lots of money, and basically after that, they can decide if they want to keep working on the game or just stop there and do something else. That is the biggest illusion of the games industry, or should I say biggest delusion, and that's what I want to talk about today. My name is Xanthos. I've been working in the games industry for over 13 years now, and I cannot tell you how many times I've seen this happen. I know it sounds very obvious, and hearing that, everybody thinks, well, of course nobody thinks like that, right? Nobody thinks that you just make a game, release it, and instantly become rich. But if you can take my word for it, it has happened to every single place I've worked at, and it has happened to every single place that I know about that makes games. There's only a handful of places in the industry that take a different approach. So what do I mean exactly? Well, let's take a company that has a new game project that starts, and they have a certain roadmap for what they want to do ahead. They think we're going to make these features, we're going to get this game to this state, and when it gets to a good state, we're going to release it. That is where the planning ends for most companies. And that is extremely dangerous because this process does nothing to guarantee the quality of the game. Why is that the case? Well, when you go through this type of development, the only focus of the entire development process is getting all the features that are considered necessary in the game and making sure that the game has well as few bugs as possible. So in this process, the actual gameplay quality of the game and the desirability of the game are never tested. I'll say that again for emphasis. The, let's say, fun of the game, the gameplay quality, and the desirability of the game as a product are never tested in this process because nobody tests them. There is no step that says, well, do people want this? Are people going to buy this? Is this good enough in a sense? And here you might think, well, that happens right at the beginning of the project, right? When this game is checked as a product to see if it has good market fit, if there's people interested in this type of game and so on. So that's when we check. Be surprised how many times this doesn't happen in the games industry. But even if it does happen, that doesn't solve anything because it is just an assumption. It is an assumption that happens in the beginning, and it's something that must be verified in the end or towards the end of the development process to make sure that the game hits its mark as a product. And how would you go about doing that? Typically, you would invite people not just to play the game and check for bugs and see if they like it, but create some sort of graphics map or tastes and interests area to set from all the gamers out there. There's the gamers that like this kind of game, so we're going to try to identify those guys, invite them over to our studio, play the game, get some high quality conversations going on, or there's many methods to achieve this, right? But that part is never done. The game is checked for bugs because that's a very straightforward check to do. But the only way the company learns about the actual quality of the game and the actual feedback of the people is by releasing it. Now, this is where the problems start, because the delusion here kicks in and companies think, well, if it's a successful game, it's going to have lots of sales from the beginning, and if it gets lots of sales, then we'll have the money to keep working on it, or make DLCs, or make the second game, and so on. If it doesn't, then that means that the project was a failure. We shouldn't have made it, we shouldn't put any more effort and money into it, and we should quit here, close the project, possibly fire everybody who's working in it, and move on to something else. This is typical, like, high-level money stuff conversations in the game industry. And from my experience, I don't think that's the case. I don't think the world is black and white like that. I've seen so many crazy games be successful out there that I'm convinced that, and so many other products in the world in general, that it's not really about whether something is good or bad. It's how much time did you take to make sure it does what you hope it does. So what this means for games is, it's not that you do a little bit of testing and then you do a grand release, or that, so you do something like that. It's really taking the time and treating the project as a living, breathing thing, even if it's a single player, one-off game, right? With no online features, no replayability, and so on. Even in that case, there's things to tweak, there's things to improve, there's experience, key moments to accentuate in the process of the game as the player goes through it. And these are the things that need to be checked. And these things, if you wait to check them after the game is released, sometimes it's unfortunately too late, because you will get feedback about that. People will say, I don't like, the combat in this game, or I don't like the story, or this. And this is amazing feedback. This is gold. These are the words that most game developers should be looking forward to hearing, because essentially people are telling them that, look, if you fix this, I'm gonna like this game and I will buy it. So unfortunately, instead of waiting for that moment and looking forward to it as much as possible, and in fact making it happen as early as possible during the development process rather than after release, unfortunately, when the game has gone on sale and the game does get all this potentially negative feedback, potentially justifiably so, then it's often the case that the company thinks, well, this project obviously wasn't successful, let's quit here and let's move on to something else. That is very unfortunate. I have seen so many games be in this situation, and I'm sure you, traveler, as well, have games that you like, that you start playing, and you think, oh man, if this game only got a little bit more love from the developers, this could have been the best game ever. There's so many cases of that. And that is what will allow these games to really grow up to their full potential. I think that this simple change in the development process will make all the difference, and I really hope to see more projects being developed like that. So if you have experience with this sort of development, if you like this more qualitative approach to the final product, beyond feature completeness and checking for bugs, please let me know down below. I will be very much looking forward to see what you have to say. Anyway, thanks as always for your time, and until next time, have fun.